All right, check this out. Zelenskyy just gave Trump a much-needed wake-up call and showed him what true leadership looks like, what true love for your country looks like. I want to show this clip because it's a direct rebuttal to something that Trump said to Zelenskyy about a week ago. Trump's been a huge asshole to both Zelenskyy and other allies since he took office, but mainly it's been jarring to see Trump very rapidly adopt the Vladimir Putin position on Ukraine after one phone call. I mean, don't get me wrong, Trump's Ukraine peace deal was always going to be terrible, but I didn't expect him to start parroting Putin talking points verbatim. So Trump said in a tweet the other day, not only that Zelenskyy is a dictator, but that the US and Ukraine essentially started the war and that Putin wants peace. That's wrong for many reasons because number one, Putin is the one that can just pull his troops out and there will be peace. Number two, Zelenskyy did not start the war. Putin started the war. I mean, we can spend all day debunking this, but let's talk about this story. Let's talk about what Putin just said because it actually gives him a lot of leverage in negotiation and puts Trump in an impossible spot. So make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. And Putin said that he is ready to resign as the Ukrainian president if it brought peace. And by peace, he doesn't mean a short-term peace deal where Russia gets the upper hand. He means long-term security guarantees that will stop Putin from ever reinvading. But even besides that, Zelenskyy right now is directly rebutting what Trump said about him being a dictator. I mean, what kind of dictator would willingly give up power for the security of his country? No, he's somebody who wants long-term peace and doesn't care what it costs. So before we even jump into this, I want you guys to know that after Trump began to attack Zelenskyy, it backfired because Ukrainians coalesced around Zelenskyy. They began to support him even further. The same thing happened with Trudeau and Sheinbaum. Trump has caused an increase in approval ratings among many liberal leaders across the globe. You can call that the Trump effect. But this is funny. It says, Ukraine rallies around Zelenskyy after Trump's vicious attack. Kyiv blasts back at the U.S. president after he ridicules Ukraine's leader and demands the war-ravaged country hold an election, which is just impossible. They're being invaded, they're being occupied, and people are at war. What I found incredibly interesting was Yulia Tymoshenko, former prime minister of Ukraine and the leader of the oppositional party to Ukraine. The former prime minister of Ukraine and leader of the oppositional party to Zelenskyy. So Zelenskyy's opposition came out and said, Ukraine is a sovereign state. Vladimir Zelenskyy is the president of Ukraine and legitimate until another is elected. Only Ukrainians can decide when and under what conditions they should change their government. Today, there are no conditions. I mean, this is a type of unity that honestly would never happen in the US and is happening in Ukraine specifically because of the war. The war has brought even opposition parties together. So Zelenskyy's opposition is saying, dude, I mean, they're saying, I disagree with Zelenskyy, but he's duly elected. So let's watch this clip of what Zelenskyy said and let's break down what it means.
Чи ви готові залишити пост президента, якщо це означатиме мир для України?
Так, якщо мир для України, якщо вам дуже потрібно, щоб я залишив свій пост, я готовий. Друга історія, можу поміняти це на НАТО, якщо є такі умови одразу. Я фокусуюсь на безпеці України сьогодні, а не за 20 років. І не збираюсь бути у влади десятиріччя. Тому це, напевно, мій фокус і бажана мрія.
Чи ви готові
All right, and this is something that Trump can't even fathom. The line that I really like is, I focus on the security of Ukraine today, not in 20 years, and I'm not going to be in power for 10 years. So he's saying that he will willingly give up power for the security of his country when Trump did the exact opposite. When we look at 2020, he tried to cling on to power at the cost of America, at the cost of American security. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Sunday he was ready to resign as a leader if it meant it brought peace to his country, suggesting he could swap it for NATO membership. So he's saying, yo, Trump, if you don't like me, if you want me to not be the president anymore, then you can give us NATO membership and guarantee us security. But Trump would never do that. Trump was not strong enough to do that. Asked at a press conference if he was ready to quit if it ensures peace for Ukraine, Zelenskyy said, if it guarantees peace for Ukraine, if you really need me to resign, I am ready. I can exchange it for NATO. So that's all he wants. Exchange it for something that is actually feasible. When Trump made that mineral proposal, he was saying, we get about half of your minerals, and in return, you get nothing. You don't get any long-term or even short-term security guarantees. In fact, Russia gets to keep the land that it's taken, therefore validating Vladimir Putin's strategy of just grabbing land, grabbing territory. Zelensky's comments follow an escalating spat with Donald Trump after the US president falsely accused Ukraine of starting the conflict, which on its face is absurd. I've debunked this time and time again, but when Trump says that Putin actually has security guarantees, he doesn't want NATO on his border, that's false. The Baltic countries are in NATO, and they have been since 2004, and they are right on Russia's border. So when NATO is a purely defensive alliance, Vladimir Putin has no reason to be scared of NATO on his border unless he plans on invading one of those NATO countries. And look at that. Trump also has it flipped. I mean, a lot of conservatives have it completely backwards. They think that Putin is invading because of NATO in Ukraine. But here's the reality. Ukraine has only been leaning towards NATO and leaning more and more towards the West because of Russian aggression in the first place. So Russia is an asshole, and then Ukraine decides to get some security guarantees or some security and partner with the West, and Russia uses that to further be an asshole. So when Zelenskyy hit back, accusing the US president of being in a, quote, disinformation space, which is true. I mean, everything Zelenskyy has said about Trump is absolutely true. The idea that Trump is in a disinformation space shouldn't be controversial. Trump is so narcissistic that he has no ability to reality test, and he gets caught in these crazy lies. I mean, he literally fired all of his lawyers in 2020 and opted for Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell to tell his lies because he's delusional. He's narcissistic. He'll do the same thing with Putin. He will stretch reality so incredibly far to fit his narcissistic delusions. Zelenskyy on Sunday said his approach with the Trump admin is, quote, pragmatic. There is no space for emotions here, Zelenskyy said. Referring to Trump's remarks about him, the Ukrainian leader said, quote, obviously I would not say Trump's words to me are compliments, to say the least. And Zelenskyy is essentially calling Trump's bluff. He is calling Trump's bluff. He's saying, you don't want me as the leader of Ukraine anymore. Well, you can actually have that. There are ways that you can have that if you offer me pragmatic security guarantees and make sure Russia can't invade in 5 years, in 10 years. I say this on my show a lot, but Russia's wartime strategy is to start a war, build a wartime economy, and then pause that war when it's convenient. But it's only a pause. And then they use that time to rebuild, to rearm, and then they reinvade. They've done this in 2008. With Georgia, and then 2014 with Crimea, and then they give it some time, and in 2022, they reinvade. So what Trump and what Zelenskyy have to do is reach a goal where Zelenskyy has enough of a security guarantee that Putin can't just invade in 2030, or if it's not Putin anymore, whoever the leader of Russia is. So they can't just invade in 2030, or even 2028, or even sooner than that. So that's the goal, and we'll see how it plays out. But Trump is not handling this well. His cabinet is not handling this well. And if you agree, drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.